So overall, here I get my review of Ancient Magus Bride episode 6. I found it a pretty good episode, but I will say I do think this is the weakest episode so far in the anime. That isn't to say that this episode is horrible. That is like, oh my god, this episode is like the worst. It's more like episode 3 is, I would say, 9 10, 10 10. Episode 4 is 10 10. Episode 5 was absolutely the best episode. I was like, last week was by far, I say, the best episode. So if last week was 10 on 10, right, this episode is definitely isn't 10 10. This episode is way weaker. So I think it's a good episode, but it definitely doesn't have the kind of the narrative strength and so on, or scenery, or whatever that all the episodes had. To some point, I actually found it a little fillerish, to be honest, right? Because I think one main issue episode had, and I might come up negative now, but I just want to really say it because this anime is really good, but it does have issue with the pacing, right? The anime is very, very slow. Episode 3, I call it like super beautiful but super slow or something like that. And this episode really pushed it, I think. So it became too much filler, almost like, yeah. Because the forest scene was just way too long. It felt like the forest scene just dragged on forever, and it clearly didn't like lead anywhere. That's a big issue with it. Like it didn't amount to anything, right? Because of course, we got to find these new characters. We got to find Oberon, King Arthur and so on, right, and Titania, King and Queen of British Islands and the fairies and so on. And yeah, of course, we're gonna meet them, see the personalities. So it's not like a wasted time. It's a character exposition episode for sure. But it felt like it just dragged on, right? It could have been maybe like 10 minutes instead of like 15 minutes, or maybe less minutes, like 7.5 something. It felt like that scene could probably cut in half, and it would give me kind of the same feeling, right? I think that's an issue here because it's kind of a redundancy of exposition. When the character is like Oberon, he does this thing, he's like, we're the guy, and he does that thing, and he jumps around, yeah, and he does that kind of thing, right? And then it's like the jokes, Titania's like, oh, I hate my husband, and then it's like 3-4 minutes later, he's doing this thing again, and it's just like, we already seen that, we already seen this thing again, so it felt like they kind of just looped the whole scene almost like a double, yeah, just same thing again. So I want to say it first. Max is very negative here, but yeah, I think this episode really like pinpoints, to me at least, the feeling of the weakest part of this whole anime. Which is mainly the pacing or kind of some kind of redundancy and so on, right? It's beautiful, but it's slow, right? And this episode here really like, okay, it's really maximizing the bad qualities this anime has sometimes. Not saying that this anime is bad, I'm just saying that this particular is definitely the issue with it, right? So one thing, of course, for me, because I wanted to be a bit more narrative and so on, is that we see the sorcerer guy, which I can't remember his name, so I guess it didn't say his name. I'm hoping that. From, of course, the Matthew and so on, the flashback. And, of course, I said last week, I was like, this guy could be the bad guy, this guy is clearly the main antagonist, or at least the first main antagonist, whatever, or one arc antagonist eventually. And in the preview, in the last second preview, he is in the preview. And also, of course, with again, so he's going to fight them right next week with Ruth. So I think that sounds... So next episode looks really awesome. Like next week looks really awesome. So I'm still excited. I mean, I'm coming off with like, this episode wasn't very good. But I think the episode wasn't very good. I think it was like a 7 out of 10 episode at best, this episode. But it really looks like next episode is going to be another 10 out of 10 episode, right? With having the fight between, the evil sorcerer guy that we built up last week. And we see the dog guy coming in. We saw him in the last second here. We see this obviously the queen and the king. So he's coming in there. So we get kind of the full picture, probably more of the anime. So I'll get back on next week, so I'll be 10 times better than this episode was. Because that's kind of it, right? Like I'm sitting here now. What can I discuss the episode? Not much really. The biggest part was the last minute when we see the dog guy, Ruth, whatever he is, but some kind of werewolf, whatever. And then we see the preview and we see the sorcerer guy. And we saw him for like a second, of course, after Renfred and so on left. But still, like those are the biggest takeaways for me in this episode. Really is, like in a narrative sense at least. Then, of course, yes, it's very beautiful and she's lying there. It's very, very beautiful. She's lying there in this kind of bed in the forest. Very, very beautiful scene. Queen Titania has gigantic up eyes. They're like this big, right? And she's like a cutting. I don't know how close to like. Coming up here, right? Yeah, so it's like ridiculously revealing and so on. classic elves. Yeah, it's like Oberon is the quirky, annoying trickster god. This kind of what I meant, right? Yeah, it's like the personality weren't that strong. I think that's a problem also. Wow, I sound super negative now. I mean, I did enjoy it somewhat, but I was like, yeah, because the personality is kind of like cliche. Like, they have this kind of druid, queen, queen of the fae. They're always very sexualized. They're always very seductress and very like, do you wanna play with me, boy? Yeah, they also they're kind of going for it, right? Almost like 9%, 9 out of 10, yeah. Deception of a queen of a fairy. They're always like, ooh, young man, but yeah. And of course, the other fairy king. He shows the typical trickster fairy. It's like, oh, this thing, yeah, and super hyper and doing all of that, right? So they are pretty much what I would expect them to be. And when I think about that, so I'm kind of fluid here when I review them, but I think about that also makes it a little worse, I guess, because they are what I expect, right? So I see her entering, it's like, okay, that's a seductress queen, okay, obviously. And then he's like, oh, a young man, yeah, so okay, yeah, it's just mean. And then after that, he's like, oh, they're gonna get children. And like, yeah, so it's just like, the first second I see her, even the pre-elastic, I was like, oh, I kind of guess what she's gonna be like. And then she is exactly like that, and he kind of show it like 3, 4, 5 times, right? And I mean, like, yeah, you showed me once, and it was enough for me to kind of understand her character somewhat. And it's like a general personality. And then he showed it to me 3 more times. I was like, yeah, I get it now. I get it, right? So I think that makes it even worse in a sense. That they are very, very much typecast how they behave, right? But yeah. We saw clearing it. Well, yeah, that scene was, yeah, okay. Once, yeah, I honestly can't forget about now, but that's a good scene as well. That scene was actually probably the best in the episode. Is when Elias, of course, carrying Jesus, he's like, oh, I was gonna suck up you to the max, and then I was gonna tell you. When I knew I was in your head, then I was gonna tell you, lady, that I was, manipulating you to be. I was like, what? But I'm telling you now. And she's like, oh, it's fine, I love you anyway. Yeah, that's good. I was like, that scene was weird. It was like, oh yeah, I was gonna abuse you, and I'm abusing you, and I was gonna admit it later on when it was too late for you to escape. He's like, oh, don't worry, it's already too late. He was like, yeah. That scene was weird. Oh god, this anime. Oh, that was a weird scene. But yeah, I think it was a very beautiful episode. But I'm gonna have 20 dislikes for this episode. I have to get a good title here. No, but really, I was like, it's a good episode, but this episode really shows. All the bad parts that anime has, and which is mainly like pacing and like not really narrative stuff. Yeah, because sometimes you kind of, it's weird, right? Because this anime was what's called genre specific. Some people named it as Slice of Life, and absolutely it's not Slice of Life, even though it is slow. It's more like it is no story. There is a story, it's just slow, right? So yeah, I think it was a completely wrong title for it or genre for it. But it has that kind of feeling to it as it's a very shallow level. It's kind of like that because it's like, wow, nothing is happening. You're just kind of living in a magic world. But it's completely different. It's much more like the pacing is incredibly slow and it's very subtle, right? So you see these dogs here, see dogs in the end. So there is some kind of narrative there, but it feels like it could be way faster. I think that's more like that. But because I go after this episode, like I said again, my takeaway is dog guy coming next week and evil sorcerers. They're gonna probably fight each other. Elias will help him, and he's gonna join them and live with them, right? And they're gonna maybe defeat this kill that evil sorcerer guy. That's my takeaway for this episode. What happened next episode, right? Yeah, this episode itself was like Stockholm syndrome, beautiful forest, pervy queen, and like trickster king. Yeah, it's like which I could see from like just how they look in image wise. So. It's been a week, yeah. So I don't want to praise them, but I can guess that people are saying that isn't that good. I'm getting a little bit of that. But at the same time, I am truly genuinely excited about next week. I really am. I want to see this thing going. I want to see this showdown go down next week. Next week, right? So anyway, see you guys next week. Yeah, see you guys next week. Mouse.